Mother relay, we're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Our weekend recap of what was the Lauren Price versus Natasha Jonas fight. That wasn't quite the massacre I expected, but it was lopsided. It was all one-way traffic from the opening round to the final round in a contest where Natasha Jonas was just always a step behind.
That's really the story of the fight.
You couldn't accuse Natasha Jonas of doing anything wrong, per se, or making mistakes. Put simply, she was just too slow. Too slow for Lauren Price, who was far too fast. Far too fast on her feet with fast hands. Getting off quick combinations, rapid-fire combinations in the exchange. Then stepping out before Natasha Jonas could counter. Stepping out before Natasha could respond. Swinging at air repeatedly.
Missing by a wide margin.
I didn't give Natasha Jonas a single round in this fight. After a while, it was just a question of whether or not Lauren wants to go for a big finish, or is she just gonna coast?
Do just enough.
And I feel like she did just enough, respecting Natasha Jonas's power enough that she's not getting greedy with her speed or her combinations. She didn't want to stay right in front of her too long or in the pocket for too long, not if she didn't need to, but she could have.
The difference in speed between them was dramatic. Dramatic enough that
She could have stopped her.
if Lauren wanted to put the screws to Natasha, she very well could have and got her out of there. Every time Lauren landed a punch, it moved Natasha Jonas's entire body.
Knocking her off balance, the counter right hook was a very effective punch from out of the southpaw stance for Lauren Price, and every time she landed it, it knocked Natasha Jonas off balance.
She landed it quite a bit.
We didn't see much in terms of variety from Lauren Price. She established early what was working and stuck to that.
So there wasn't much in terms of variety because Natasha Jonas was not the fighter to bring that out of her. Lauren didn't have to adjust. You understood early on what's working.
And you don't really need to do more than that. I'll go as far as saying that the difference in speed between them was so dramatic, I left thinking that Lauren Price took it easy on Natasha Jonas, that she knew she could have stopped her, but perhaps out of respect, kept the fight on cruise control, because Lauren was having it all her way.
And there was nothing Natasha Jonas could do about it.
After the fight is over, and the judges' scorecards are read, I didn't hear Natasha Jonas announce her retirement. I think if Lauren would have made a decision to put the screws to her and stopped her, perhaps we would have. Perhaps then Natasha would have announced her retirement. But she was allowed to finish the fight on her feet and live to fight another day. Perhaps she will.
Against who?
After the fight, reacting to it, I saw Michaela Mayer say congrats to Lauren Price and Natasha Jonas for the Rumble. All the fights on the card were highly entertaining, and it was a total win for women's boxing. I got a job to do on March 29th, but I fully expect to be sharing the ring with Price later on this year.
Wait, so you think Natasha's gonna fight Michaela again? Michaela's talking about fighting Lauren.
Yes, she is, but she's not going back to the United Kingdom to do it. After the experiences that she had traveling abroad against Alicia Baumgartner, which took place in the UK, the Natasha Jonas fight that also took place in the UK, decisions that did not go Michaela Mayer's way, I don't think she's going to go over there to fight Lauren.
So while she might say that she's open to the fight and expects to have it later on this year, that doesn't speak to where it's going to happen.
After having become welterweight champion in the Sandy Ryan fight, if she wins the Sandy Ryan rematch, I do not expect Michaela Mayer to concede home field advantage to Lauren Price.
So what could happen is a rematch with Natasha. A rematch with Natasha in America instead of Liverpool,
where their initial meeting took place. Now that Michaela is the champion and Natasha would be the challenger, who did not announce her retirement yesterday, I can entertain the idea that Michaela and Natasha run it back in America.
And Lauren?
Lauren's got a lot of belts now. A lot of belts come with a lot of mandatories. Maybe she satisfies one of them in her native Wales. While Michaela exacts her revenge on Natasha for the fight that she should have won the first time out in the second.
I can see that happening.
It's not that I think Michaela doesn't want to fight Lauren. It's that she doesn't want to fight her in the UK. So I feel like that's a difficult fight to negotiate, where Michaela's not going to want to concede home field advantage. Lauren Price is dangerous enough as it is.
Congratulations to her. She is now this division's unified Ring Magazine welterweight champion. The prediction stuck. She didn't knock out Natasha Jonas like I thought she would, but she definitely dominated her.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, boxing insider Rick Glacia took to his social media and stated, with Turki El Sheikh, Dana White, and Nick Khan forming TKO Boxing, those are three very busy guys with full plates already. So now, who is actually going to run TKO Boxing on the daily? Who will be the executives and management that actually run TKO Boxing? This will be important. Successful, they will be with Turki El Sheikh, Dana White, and Nick Khan. But just how successful will depend on the executives that they hire to actually run the company. That will be interesting. Very interesting. Looking forward to those announcements.
As I read through Rick's comments, Tom Loeffler almost immediately came to mind because he's already doing some business with Dana White, and he has been. Tom Loeffler of 360 Promotions,
most famous for promoting Gennady Golovkin in his heyday, still promotes shows under the 360 Promotions banner. He's got his own stable of fighters, and their fights are aired on Dana White's UFC Fight Pass. In a situation where you have so many powerful players that already have a full plate, I could see a situation where Tom Loeffler is assigned the role of point man, because if nothing else, he is a boxing guy, more of a boxing guy at least than Dana White. And maybe they bring along one or two other familiar faces, guys who are already working within the industry of boxing that could be of use to this TKO Boxing group, boxing league, promotion, whatever you want to call it.
It's been a virtual guessing game the last week or so as to what this is going to look like. What's the stable? What's that going to look like? What fighters will it be comprised of? Are we talking about prospects, starting from scratch, established names?
And is the honeymoon over between Turki El Sheikh and all the promoters that he's been working with so far the last calendar year?
Yeah, because the online narrative is that you and Frank are now toast, Dana's
totally
in.
Finished, yeah. I mean, you know, we did have a business before Saudi Arabia, and obviously we'll continue to have some, but we've loved being involved with Riyadh season, His Excellency. It's been hugely beneficial for us and the sport and our fighters, and we expect that to continue.
But and to make the big fight, I mean, obviously all the top stars are contracted anyway, so if they do want to do these mega fights, is it going to have to be a case of they're going to have to carry on as they are with you and Frank
maybe.
anyway?
I just don't know what the format is. You know, I think in the press release it said about building stars and building talent, so is it, you know, lesser known fighters? I mean, it looks like they've got the ESPN deal from Top Rank, which is obviously massive, and that can build stars. So, you know, listen, they're smart guys. I'm sure they'll come up with a structure that has potential.
Eddie Hearn mentioned them having an ESPN deal. Will TKO Boxing Group be replacing Top Rank on ESPN? Because we know ESPN's deal with Top Rank is set to be up this year.
Top Rank seems to be traversing tumultuous waters between their deal with ESPN being up and all that stuff that's come out via Billy Keane and his lawsuit against Top Rank. You wonder what their future is.
But I can only tell you now what I told you before. A fledgling promotional outfit in the form of TKO Boxing is no substitute, no real replacement for Top Rank.
By now, the audience has grown accustomed to getting their boxing fix for top-ranked fighters on ESPN. If you take that away and replace it with some new brand of boxing comprised mostly of prospects, it's not going to have the same effect.
Just because it has the branding, just because Dana White is attached to it, it would still basically be Pro Box, but on steroids. Pro Box with a better budget.
It's no replacement for Top Rank and what they've built the last 7 or 8 years that they've been on ESPN. I think it's counterintuitive.
But then why would ESPN do it if they were to?
Maybe because it's cheaper. The budget that ESPN has been providing Top Rank is in the neighborhood of $80 or $90 million
annually. And if what this TKO Boxing promotion is a promotion full of prospects, well, you know you don't have to pay prospects all that much. And their shows are not as expensive to put together, so that's at least one reason why ESPN might be thinking about it, though ultimately we don't yet know what they're going to do.
And when it comes to TKO, we don't yet know what they are either. What that's supposed to look like. It's just a bunch of guesses.
It's just a guessing game at this point. I think I heard them say that they're not actually going to do their first show until next year, whereas the Top Rank ESPN deal is set to be up this year.
I think our relationship with Saudi Arabia and His Excellency has got a long way to go. If it stopped today, we'd still have a huge business with over 30 dates globally and a huge broadcast deal. So nothing can really hurt us. And I like the competition, but I don't necessarily see it as competition just yet, unless the intention is something different to my perception of it. And my perception of it is it's a league to bring fighters through with a very powerful group in TKO and a very smart man and a great promoter in Dana White. And I think I look at it more positively and a reflection of boxing as to the fact they want to get involved just shows you the position that boxing's in. Dana White's a huge name, and if he's going to get involved in boxing in some capacity, why not? If he's got that ESPN deal as well, I think that, it's going to be. I think it's very unlikely that what Dana and TKO does fails. Do you know what I mean? It's just how successful can it be, and what changes are going to be made. We've talked about this best feeder best, and I'm a big supporter of that. The one belt structure. I don't know, it's been talked about for many, many years, but no one's ever come into the sport with the same kind of financial power of His Excellency.
Eddie Hearn doesn't seem pressed or stressed about Turkey's latest undertaking with Dana White, where so many are implying that lines are now being drawn in the sand.
He hasn't drawn one, and he chooses to look at all of this as a positive.
Having been in this industry for so long, I hardly think that Eddie Hearn, of all people, is being blissfully naive. And if there are some who are interpreting all of this as Dana White and Turkey suddenly becoming competition for Eddie and all he's got,
That they are now a threat?
that would imply that Dana White is better at his job than he is, and he's not. No, Dana White's had a lot of success in the UFC, which is practically a bubble.
You took a fledgling sport to new heights, and that's all well and good, but boxing is much harder to monopolize.
Because there are so many moving parts and so many competing interests that one guy can't hope to control it all, not even Turkey. At some point, it really does boil down to know-how.
And Dana doesn't have that, not in the world of boxing.
So perhaps all the interpretations of this that we've been hearing the last 3 or 4 days are little more than misinterpretations from people looking for a narrative.
That Turkey's now turning against everybody.
That the honeymoon is over and the rug is about to be swept from under them. I'm sorry, but did you think this was going to last forever?
Nothing lasts forever. I didn't think this was going to.
Not saying that it's ending, but if it is, well, enjoy it while it lasts. While you're getting fights like Fury versus Usyk and Better Be versus Bivol and just all of that, just enjoy it.
Fights of that caliber for only $20 to $25 a pop, yeah, you better enjoy it while it lasts.
But I just don't know that it's the way that the narrative spinners are spinning it. Interpreting this as Turkey turning against the promoters that he's been working with the last calendar year, many of which he still seems to have future plans with. I just don't know that it's the way that these people are telling it. They may be misinterpreting all of this, for all I know. Men's lightweight news per veteran boxing scribe Dan Raphael. I have received the letter from the New York State Athletic Commission's executive director to attorneys for Lamont Roach and Gervonta Davis, in which the commission acknowledges various errors made by the referee in round 9, but has declined to change the bout of the result. Thus, the draw will stand.
I'm not surprised. I told you from the moment that this became a story, I was not optimistic that the New York State Athletic Commission would overturn the draw and turn it into a Lamont Roach win. That would be a fairy tale ending to what was a controversial bout, and if you're familiar with this sport, there are very few fairy tales in it.
Veteran boxing scribe Stephen Kimothy said as much. I just couldn't see the New York State Athletic Commission ruling in favor of Lamont Roach, even though he had a very valid case. The bottom line is, if they did, a venue like the Barclays Center may have never gotten him back for future fights.
Talking about Gervonta Davis.
And this is where the boxing is a business line applies.
They did what was right in the name of business.
It doesn't really matter anyway, because the damage is done. If Gervonta Davis' skill set has eroded to the point where a Lamont Roach proves to be too much for him, to where he needs this much chicanery to stay an unbeaten fighter, the end is nigh. It's right around the corner, and it's only a matter of time.
He better get out while he's ahead.
That's how I see it. Lamont Roach does not suddenly become a better fighter than I thought he was. No, that just means Gervonta is worse.
He's worse than I thought he was.
Even if there is a rematch, and even if Gervonta manages to do in the second fight what everyone expected him to do in the first, that doesn't doesn't take away that it took 2 fights for you to get 1 win over this guy. And this guy wasn't heralded as a world beater or a pound-for-pound fighter by any stretch before you fought him.
That was your reputation.
These are very bad optics for the New York State Athletic Commission that is allowing the draw to stand, and these are still very bad optics for Gervonta.
That didn't change.
Though I will say that if this is what Gervonta Davis had to go through with a Lamont Roach, a 130-pound fighter, I hardly expect him to now fight a Keyshawn Davis or a Shakur Stevenson, because if this is what you had to go through with him, imagine how much worse it would be with them. These guys actually are lightweights. They are proven 135-pound fighters.
More than Lamont Roach was. He had no prior experience at the weight.
It's not your thoughts on Lamont you need to recalibrate. It's your thoughts on Gervonta. Imagine if he knew he brought up a 118-pounder up to 122 and had a performance like that. Imagine if Canelo brought up a guy from 160 up to 168.
And had a performance like Gervonta's.
The same people that are defending Gervonta Davis now would not extend that understanding, that sympathy, to them. So why are we supposed to extend that to him?
He's a hype job.
The other day I saw veteran fighter turned commentator Paulie Malignaggi ask if Gervonta Davis' stopping power is simply the byproduct of good matchmaking.
Gee, you think?
He's been bringing up fighters from lower divisions to seem a stronger puncher than he actually is for years. What do you think Jesus Cuellar was? Or Hugo Ruiz?
Hector Luis Garcia.
What was Lamont Roach? This isn't new, and when he's not bringing up fighters from lighter weights to seem a stronger puncher, he's handicapping fighters with weight stipulations.
So any fighter that requires this much chicanery to stay unbeaten, this much smoke, this many mirrors,
none of which is new. At this point, you just choose to look at him through rose-tinted lenses. The writing is on the wall, you just don't want to read it.
I saw a boxing scene article from Timothy Bradley that states Gervonta's not overrated. You could have fooled me.
Then again, maybe he isn't overrated because I don't even rate him. His fights aren't fights. They aren't actually competitions. The outcome is preordained.
May as well be scripted because Gervonta Davis's boxing career is tantamount to a sitcom.
What it is a joke that isn't funny.